Hello and welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shuja and these are the headlines. Pakistan's army says 2 soldiers were martyred as terrorists opened fire on a checkpost in South Waziristan. The army's media cell says another soldier was injured in the incident near Pash Zarat. It says an operation is underway to clear the area. Australian elite troops are suspected of unlawfully killing 39 people in Afghanistan over 11 years. The country's military released a long-awaited report into the alleged war crimes committed in the South Asian nation. Australian Defence Chief Angus Campbell says the army unreservedly apologized to the Afghan people. President Donald Trump's campaign has stepped up a legal effort to discredit the 3rd November presidential election. The campaign asked a judge in Pennsylvania to declare the results defective. It said the state's Republican-controlled legislators should select the electors that will vote for the president. The United States death count from COVID-19 has topped 250,000 mark as authorities say the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine candidates can be ready for distribution within weeks. India has recorded more than 45,000 new cases of coronavirus, with a tally approaching 9 million. The countrywide death toll has crossed 131,000, with 585 fatalities in the last 24 hours. Pakistan reported some 2,500 cases and 18 deaths overnight, pushing its toll to 7,248. Globally, the coronavirus has claimed 1.3 million lives and infected more than 56 million. And in tennis, Russia's Daniil Medvedev beat Serbia's world number 1 Novak Djokovic in the straight sets to reach the semis for the ATP Finals. The Serb hit 24 unforced errors and 5 double faults in a loss to the 4th-seed Medvedev. Djokovic can still qualify for the last 4 if he wins his final round-robin match against Germany's Alexander Zverev on Friday. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. Pakistan's army says 2 soldiers embraced martyrdom as terrorists opened fire on a checkpost in South Waziristan. The army's media cell ISPR says another soldier was injured in the incident near Pash Zarat. It identified the deceased as Havildar Matlub Alam and Sepoy Sulman Shaukat. The Inter-Services Public Relations says security forces responded promptly. It adds an operation is underway to clear the area. Australian elite troops are suspected of unlawfully killing 39 people in Afghanistan over 11 years. The country's military released a long-awaited report into the alleged war crimes committed in the South Asian nation. The inquiry stated that 25 serving or former soldiers had carried out crimes or been accessories to them. Australian Defence Chief Angus Campbell says the report uncovers a shameful record of a warrior culture by some soldiers. Campbell noted that none of the alleged killings could be described as being in the heat of battle. He said the army unreservedly apologized to the Afghan people. A special investigator will be appointed to determine whether there was sufficient evidence to prosecute. The Taliban have hailed Pentagon's announcement to pull out some 2,000 troops stationed in Afghanistan. Earlier, the Pentagon said the United States will slash troop numbers in Afghanistan and Iraq to their lowest levels in nearly 20 years of war. In an interview, Taliban spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid said the step will prevent further escalation in the Afghan war. He said the move is in the interest of the people of both countries. A United States-Taliban deal signed in February requires Washington to withdraw all foreign forces from the country by May next year. In return, the Taliban promised not to attack U.S. troops and also vowed to prevent groups like ISIS from operating in the country. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan says he takes full responsibility for losing the battle with Azerbaijan. He says he has rejected calls for his resignation over Nagorno-Karabakh settlement. In a social media post, Pashinyan unveiled a 6-month action plan to ensure Armenia's democratic stability. He said he wants to prioritize the return of the people to areas still under control of ethnic Armenians. The Prime Minister said he wants to restore formal talks over Nagorno-Karabakh under the auspices of the Minsk Group. Pashinyan has been under pressure after ceasefire pact secured Azerbaijan's territorial gains in Nagorno-Karabakh. The United States has announced new sanctions on Iran targeting a foundation controlled by Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The Treasury Department says it has blacklisted what it calls a key patronage network for Khamenei. Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin said Khamenei uses Mustazafan to reward his allies under the pretense of charity. In a statement, the department said the foundation, as well as 10 individuals and 51 entities, have been sanctioned. It added Iran's intelligence minister has also been targeted. The curbs mark the latest action to reinforce President Donald Trump's maximum pressure campaign against Tehran. United States President Donald Trump's election campaign has stepped up legal efforts to discredit the November 3rd presidential election. Over the past 24 hours, the campaign has asked a direct judge to declare the results defective in Pennsylvania. The court filing said the state's Republican-controlled legislature should select the electors that will vote for the president. The lawsuit also alleges inconsistent treatment by county election officials of mail-in ballots. The Trump campaign said it will file a petition for the recount in Milwaukee and Dane counties of Wisconsin. It said Trump has paid about $3 million for recounts in the two counties. Meanwhile, pro-Trump demonstrators across the country have also picked up pace with the largest rally so far in Atlanta, Georgia. Saudi Arabia says its relations with the United States will remain untouched under the new administration. In a media briefing, Energy Minister Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman said Riyadh's ties with Washington have withstood the test of time. Earlier, U.S. President-elect Joe Biden had pledged in his campaign to reassess ties with the kingdom. But the Saudi minister says bilateral relations and the joint energy program will continue. He said energy cooperation could be a launchpad for good relationship. Iraq and Saudi Arabia have opened the ARAR border crossing for trade in the first time in 30 years. Iraqi Interior Minister and the Saudi ambassador traveled from Baghdad to formally open ARAR. In a statement, the Iraqi Border Posts Commission said Riyadh will soon open the Saudi Arabian side of the border crossing. It added the border will be open for both people and goods. The border has remained closed since the 1990s following former Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait. The relations began improving in 2017 when the Saudi Foreign Minister Adil al-Jubair traveled to Baghdad. It was followed by a Riyadh trip and then Iraqi Prime Minister Haidar al-Abadi. Jordan, Bahrain, and the UAE have called for a just and comprehensive peace for the Palestinians. The joint statement came during a summit involving the top leadership of the three countries. Jordan's King Abdullah II, Bahrain's King Hamad Al Khalifa, and Abu Dhabi's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed held a meeting in Abu Dhabi. Jordan's state media said the leaders agreed on peace for the Palestinians based on the two-state solution. The UAE and Bahrain set aside hostilities with Israel in recent months to agree to formal ties, but Palestinian leaders have slammed these deals as a betrayal of their cause. The United States death count from COVID-19 has topped the 250,000 mark as authorities say the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine candidates can be ready for distribution within weeks. Globally, the virus has claimed 1.3 million lives and infected more than 56 million. More in this report.
Thousands of deaths and infections pile on as the world continues to grapple with the second wave of the novel coronavirus. In the US, the virus is now claiming at least one life every minute. Many states are further tightening restrictions in the last bit to contain the outbreak before the vaccine arrives. And Pfizer, Moderna and BioNTech seek to soon get emergency authorization for their drugs.
It's great news. I think it means a lot that there's an end in sight, and that that folks can remain disciplined in these kind of whatever. Just hopefully just this winter, and then by springtime we'll be back in business.
Over in Europe, Italy has reported 753 deaths overnight, its highest figure since the start of the second wave. Air France-KLM is preparing a test run to fly out dummy vaccine shipments in temperature-controlled conditions to the far-off regions. Meanwhile, the situation in Geneva remains tense with around 500 cases per day. Elsewhere, Russia's capital Moscow has turned the city's exhibition pavilion into a hospital as COVID-19 cases continue to rise.
Tomorrow will be a month since this hospital started to work. In the beginning, we admitted not so many patients and beds got occupied slowly. But now we admit quite a big number of patients almost every day. The numbers of cases are rising, so the hospital capacity and workload for medical workers are growing too. Patients come in great numbers now.
Japan's capital, Tokyo, has raised the alert level to the highest of the 4 stages after daily cases rose to a record high. In China, imported infections continue to emerge, while South Korea is striving desperately to cull new clusters. Meanwhile, India's death toll has risen to 585 to over 131,000, with the caseload approaching 9 million. Independent observers have disputed New Delhi's stance that the outbreak has slowed in India.
In Pakistan, 18 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 overnight, raising the death toll to 7,248. The health ministry says just above 2,500 tested positive in the last 24 hours. The ministry said there are more than 32,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. It said out of nearly 366,000 countrywide cases, more than 326,000 have recovered so far. The ministry said over 158,000 cases have been detected in the province of Sindh, while more than 112,000 in the province of Punjab. It added 1,535 patients across the country remain critical. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Peru's new president, Francesco Sagasti, has announced his cabinet as the government seeks to tamp down angry protests. For a week, demonstrators have been demanding major reforms to the constitution. Sagasti appointed a legal expert, Violeta Bermudez, as the prime minister to the head of 18-minister cabinet. The appointment of Sagasti after his consecutive predecessor, Manuel Merino, resigned on Sunday has helped ease jittery markets, but hundreds of people still marched on the streets of the capital, Lima, demanding constitutional reforms to curb the corruption.
There is corruption in the government, in Congress, and in the municipalities. That is why we march. We are going to insist that this great mobilization that the youth started and which they have offered their lives for continues. And we municipal workers also demand a new constitution.
In the United Kingdom, a man has been arrested in connection with the deaths of 21 people in the 1974 pub bombings in Birmingham. The twin attacks came during violence against British rule in Northern Ireland. Police said the 65-year-old suspect was arrested in Belfast and his home was being searched. They added he will be interviewed at a police station in Northern Ireland. The attacks were blamed on the Provisional Irish Republican Army, but the Court of Appeal ruled the conviction of the so-called Birmingham Six unsafe in 1975, and they were freed. A young Afghan woman has opened an art gallery to create jobs, revive traditions, and hope during a pandemic. More in this report.
In a small art gallery in Kabul, Marzia Panahi watches her employees apply paint to a framed felt canvas propped up against an easel. Panahi set up the Namad Gallery at the height of the coronavirus pandemic in September. She aimed to revive the use of felt in art to showcase her war-torn country's creativity and to try to create jobs for young people hit hard by the pandemic.
Our customers are mostly people who value domestic production, are art-loving, and support the growth of Afghan culture because we do cultural work. We have been able to sell between 30 and 50 paintings recently in the past 1.5 to 2 months. And the prices of our paintings are between $100 to $200 US.
After being out of work for months due to COVID-19, Faika Sultani joined the venture. Painting has helped her overcome her depression during the lockdown period.
Generally, when I paint, it is a kind of expression of my feelings on canvas, paper, or felt that I enjoy. Painting on felt means that we can revive the old traditions and show people that we can use our Afghan resources and make our lives more beautiful.
Afghanistan, where more than 60% of the population is younger than 25, has always struggled with high youth unemployment, but the pandemic's economic impact has exacerbated problems.
Asia-Pacific markets are trading lower as investors grapple with optimism around a potential coronavirus vaccine. In Australia, the benchmark ASX 200 retraced some of its earlier losses, but still traded down. Japan's Nikkei 225 declined close to 0.5%, while the TOPIX index traded fractionally lower. In South Korea, the Kospi index was down as well. Chinese mainland shares fell in early trade. Elsewhere in Hong Kong, the Hang Seng index has also dropped. And now sports. In tennis, Russia's Daniil Medvedev beats Serbia's world number 1 Novak Djokovic in straight sets at the ATP finals. The Serb hit 24 unforced errors and 5 double faults in a loss to the 4th seed Medvedev. Djokovic just got one chance to break Medvedev's serve in the whole match, while the Russian converted 3 of the 8 break points. Djokovic can still qualify for the last 4 if he wins his final round robin match against Germany's Alexander Zverev on Friday. Zverev earlier won 6-3, 4-6, 6-3 against Argentina's Diego Schwartzman. 3 South African players are in isolation ahead of their limited overseas series against England. In a statement, Cricket South Africa said 1 player tested positive for COVID-19, while the other 3 were in close contact with him. Names of the players have not been revealed. South Africa have not named any replacement for now, but 2 new players will join the group for the inter-squad practice matches. England will play 3 T20s and 3 one-day internationals from the 27th of November. The English players were tested before departure and again when they arrived in Cape Town. In football, Belgium beat Denmark 4-2 at the King Power Stadium to book their place in the Nations League finals. Romelu Lukaku maintained his superb form and scored a brace for Belgium. Yuri Tielemans opened the scoring for Belgium after just 3 minutes. Jonas Wind headed in an equalizer, but Lukaku scored a second-half brace to make the scoreline 3-1. A Nasser Chadli own goal reduced the deficit, but Kevin De Bruyne swept in a 4th to seal the victory for Belgium. They joined France, Spain and Italy in the finals, which will take place in October 2021. In another fixture, England thrashed Iceland 4-0 at the Wembley Stadium. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at Indus.News.